You must watch or listen to this episode if you are in meta ads, creative strategy, anywhere at all. If you have seen the influx of AI tools hitting meta ads, you want to adopt them, but you don't know where to start. You feel overwhelmed. You see over-promising and under-delivering in all kinds of places. Man, this was such a helpful conversation for me from the best AI first creative thinker I know of in our space, in Alex Cooper. Alex runs AdCrate, which is built with a few folks, and he is a brilliant thinker because he's extremely AI forward, integrating AI into all kinds of stuff he does, but is also really AI skeptical about the impact it can have on the business. And the result is a sober but advanced perspective, an envelope pushing perspective on how to use AI in your ad creative approach. I was helped deeply by this episode. I've been helped by his content for a while. You're going to love this. Listen to Alex Cooper. He's extremely helpful. Let's get into it right now. Alex Cooper, nobody I know is blending the two sides of being extremely AI forward and at the same time, I would say almost AI skeptical. That's probably too strong of a statement. You can frame that however you want. For ad creative, for meta ads and other digital advertising channels than you have a really interesting mix of, like some of the most aggressively forward AI creative content I've seen. And then at the same time, you're tweeting things like ugly ads are ultimately what's going to win here. So that's the startup for this conversation. It's why I was excited to talk to you, is to talk about sort of what, how we blend those things. React to that comment. How do you think about what I just said?
Look, I know it sounds confusing. I am very aware of that. And I think that's a pretty spot on explanation. Like, I am very aggressively AI forward. And I am also incredibly skeptical. I think that, a few months ago when I would tweet out things like, I think it's very possible in like less than 2 years time, that entire D2C brands could be run by a handful of people and an army of AI agents. People thought that I was being extremist. People thought that I was doing it for engagement. I think that, for the first 4 months of this year, people started to realize that is a very real possibility and a lot sooner than a lot of people think. At the same time, we're all now very aware that the feed is going to be flooded with all of these AI ads, AI statistics, AI video ads when someone finally cracks like how to interact with a product on video the same way that ChatGPT just did with the update. In a feed of AI ads, how do you stand out? How do you signal to people that you're not just another like soulless company creating AI ads on the timeline? And I really do think leaning into things that AI can't replicate, or at least can't replicate today, is a very smart move for a lot of creative strategists, agencies, and brands. Doing things like, like founder ads, like, ads from inside the warehouse, ads with multiple people, where they're getting like genuine, authentic reactions, or just single person, like authentic reactions. It is very difficult for me to see, at least in the short to midterm, AI being able to replicate a good creator's genuine, authentic reactions. I think it's already at the point now where it can make as good, if not better, mashups with existing content than humans can. I think it won't be long till it gets to the point where it can make as good a like single person testimonial. So I'm holding this water bottle and I'm talking about this water bottle, but like, what about if it's me and you? I'm saying like, hey, I just bought my friend like this piece of licorice, and I'm getting him to react to it for the first time as a gift. And like your actual reaction, like, maybe AI gets to the point where it can recreate that, and the tone and the inflections and like the authenticity. Maybe I don't see that being anytime soon. So I really do see the value in both. I think there's going to be value in AI because it will allow us to do volume, and it will allow us to get learnings way quicker than we otherwise would have done if we were making them like manually. But at the same time, like the stuff that AI can't do yet is going to be where humans can add their value by making ugly, authentic ads. So just the combination of both of those is what we're trying to integrate into our creative strategy as more of this tech comes out.
Let me run a framework by you, because I agree with everything you just said. So let me run a framework by you, and you tell me what you think of this, okay? What brands do, or agencies do, or whatever, is you build a testing process that is as aggressively AI forward as possible. And you then build. So we have this framework, explore and expand, right? Our idea is like, this is not rocket science, but it's helped us to think through what we're trying to accomplish at the level of creative. I think you've said some similar things times, right? Explore is the way you test new angles, new messages. Expand is you have a message or an angle that works, and then you try to expand that message and angle by taking the same message and then retelling the same story or restating the same message in as many ways as possible, as creatively as possible. There's obviously a place for AI in that, but what I've started to think is, what if the actual way to use AI is you use the AI primarily on the explore side? And so the idea is, as quickly and as cheaply as possible, you test messages. You use explainer videos. I've got one brand using AI avatars and has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on AI avatar ads that work. I think they are not as good as like a good creator, like you said, as a good actor, or something, but they are good enough. And then often, they're all using 11 Labs for VO. The script is a mix of AI and human. The video editing itself is a mix of AI and human. So there's AI all throughout the process, including the actual avatar on screen, green screen style ads, that kind of thing. So that has allowed us to test a whole bunch of messages at scale really fast and really, really ridiculously cheap. But what we are also finding is that then maybe to then take that message that works and then hammer it home with a bunch of different styles. Again, there's some place for AI in that, and we've certainly used it. But increasingly, what I would do is say, okay, what happens if we say we want to get creators to go read these scripts, or to get creators to give them a brief and have them do stuff, send influencers packages with briefs about what kind of content we're looking for, start doing that with stills, start doing it with, whatever, like just all of these different things, finding different ways to make this same point with real people, basically. And essentially that is the place where AI has the biggest impact at this point in the game, which is the ability to very cheaply test a lot of message ideas. Inherent in that is my assumption, and we've never talked about this, so tell me if you disagree with this. We totally can disagree. You don't have to sit here and be like, oh, you're so smart, great. You're welcome to disagree with me. Inherent in that is the assumption that messaging is what moves the needle first and foremost, right? That the key to great advertising is the message. And so what you're trying to test in that testing phase is not formats, it's not creators, it's not anything like that, it's the message. And so when you have a message, then you have to expand the message, and you want to then make that message work as effectively as possible by scaling it up with better quality creators, etc. What do you think about that way of approaching this? Is that too narrow?
Man. Yeah, I know. I think I have a lot to say here. I think you're spot on
Great,
there. I think you're spot on there. In the biggest impact for AI is in the exploration phase right now. I think eventually it'll be able to do both at a very high level. But we don't need to talk about here the importance of creative volume and how important it is to get a lot of ads inside the ad account and test different messages and different angles. I was in a conversation with someone recently. It's a brand that we used to work with, and they just went for a pure volume approach. And I'm not saying that quality isn't creative quality is not important, because it absolutely is. But to your point of the AI ads that you were generating in ArcAds or whatever the platform was, the AI video ads that you were generating, you look at them and objectively they don't look like, wow, this is a great ad. You would think that a human could make something better, but it's just the volume that you're able to produce them at means that it's such a massive value add for brands. And this specific brand, if you looked at their ads versus their ad library versus their competitors' ad library, you would think that they're at the same level or worse than their competitors, because their ads objectively don't look that good. But they just tested so much volume. I mean, this is before all of these tools came out. So they just had really good creative operations, but now it'd be 10x with the AI tools. They just did so much volume that they were able to learn way quicker what messages worked, what messages didn't work. So that they actually ended up growing their business from 10 to 50 mil, and literally credited the amount of creative volume and message testing as one of the key contributors towards being able to scale that quickly. So I definitely agree that exploration in its present state, AI is the biggest value add. And to your other point as well about the messaging being the most important, if if we're in this position where we're saying like, okay, creative agencies aren't going to get fired, like, creative shows aren't going to get fired by AI, it's going to enhance them. And it's like, right, so how do you make high performance creative today with AI? And like you said, people want the answer that's like, oh, you got to try this format, or you got to try this style, or like you got to do this. But honestly, the answer doesn't change with the development of AI. It's still, you need to have a deep understanding of psychology. You need to go out, you need to go and read Ogilvy on advertising, you need to read Marketing's Mind State, you need to study the Harmon brothers, and you really need to get an understanding of psychology, because then with psychology, you can become better at research, and then with better research, you become better at copywriting. And like, that's where the headlines come from. That's where it's come from. That's where the scripts come from. And like, I just think that making high performance creative is about like, not necessarily what format or style that you choose, but more so that like, okay, I run an anti-dandruff shampoo brand, and I saw in one comment on a Reddit thread deep into the depths of Reddit, I saw someone said, oh, actually, like, I was really struggling with beard dandruff, and like, this didn't help my hair, this helped my beard. And like, you test that as an ad, and like, it becomes your best performer because you've uncovered this secret pain point that only insiders who have the actual pain point would understand and relate to. Like, that's what I think being a good creative strategist is. And I don't think that changed with AI. I mean, the other one that is probably more familiar to people is like the Fupa killer example that Ash posted from Olvi, like, where Fupa is an inside term that only people who have that pain point understand. And they did that as a static, just Fupa killer, and it became one of their top performing statics because, like, they understood the words and phrases and use cases that their customers actually have of their product. I think the only thing that changes with AI is now that you just have to understand how to do all of that. Plus, you have to understand how to reverse engineer that output with AI. Like, you just have to do psychology, research, and copywriting, which are all kind of intertwined anyway, plus prompting, which is understand how to take all of this and reverse engineer the output with AI.
I love INTELLIGEMS. I love them because my clients love INTELLIGEMS. They've been using them for a long time. It is the CRO software of record in our space. And that's because if you are thinking about your business with attempts to build real operational excellence all the way through your business, where you're thinking profit first, how do I build a system for deploying tests that lead to generating profit in my business? INTELLIGEMS is an incredible tool for that. I have used INTELLIGEMS in the last couple of weeks alone to test the price of a product, which is amazing, right? Like, product price has a massive impact on your profitability. The whole tariff thing that has come up recently is one of those things where, like, you might have more or less price elasticity than you think. You won't know unless you test it. And that's a really big deal if your margin gets squeezed all of a sudden. And even if your margin doesn't get squeezed, it's a really big deal because there may be more margin for you. You won't know unless you test it. So I have a client who is testing one of their core products and testing the price of that product at multiple levels. You can do that with INTELLIGEMS. I've also tested in the last couple of weeks, like, traditional across the board CRO tests, just like an A/B design type test, see if different elements in the page would impact things differently. You can also test free shipping thresholds, site-wide offers. Is that 10% off offer you're offering new customers when they sign up for your email list actually helping, or is it just cannibalizing margin from customers who are going to buy anyway? You can answer that question definitively. Your free shipping threshold, you can answer that question definitively by using INTELLIGEMS to do it. INTELLIGEMS is all about optimizing your store for profit, not just conversion rate, not just AOV, but profit. They actually tie into your unit economic numbers in your Shopify, like the actual COGS on your products, and then measure everything by profit per visit, which is their golden key God metric in INTELLIGEMS. And they spit out everything there. They tell you if you're a stat sig on your tests. They give you confidence intervals. It's really, really great software. It's easy to install. Just stop right now listening to what I'm saying. Go to intelligems.io, use the code FARRIS20, FARS20, to get 20% off your first 3 months with INTELLIGEMS today. It's great software. You should be using it if you're serious about building a good business in e-commerce. Intelligems.io. I have spent a lot of time on calls recently looking at AI tools and things like that. And I'm starting to believe that it's actually been kind of a waste of my time. Well, it's probably not a waste of my time, but what I'm starting to believe is that the actual way to do this is to get clear on my first principles, like you're saying, about what makes good ads, to get clear on my process for making ads right now. And then from there to find ways in which AI can speed up and make that process that already exists more efficient, as opposed to the promise of some AI tools right now, which is like, we'll do it all for you. We'll do all of it. It'll just be press a button and it's the infinite ads machine. And especially under the idea that volume is like the only thing that matters. It may be the case that you can produce so much volume so cheap and test it so cheap with manual bids that you don't actually need even the step that I said about first principles. Like, you might just be able to take so many freaking swings that like it just works. I haven't quite seen that yet. Instead, where I've seen it work the best is taking the things I already believe and then improving the supply chain elements of that process better. So you just gave one of these, which is you went to Reddit and found a comment down in the deep, dark part of the internet called Reddit, into the depths of the belly of the beast of Reddit, where you should never make a comment because you will get eaten alive by the crazy Redditors. And I saw you tweeting something about this too. But like, what that reflects is actually just a principle, which is that you need to understand how your customers talk, like you just said, and understand where their actual pain points are. And now you need to go learn that and then figure out how to turn that part into an AI enhanced process, right? So AI just takes some of the drudgery out of that work for you. Actually, this was my first concern about AI, was that in fact, what it would do it would remove too much of the mental churning that I do in a process like that. And therefore it would give me less creative insight for the things that are really going to be needle movers, because I actually, in some ways, want the friction. I want my mental gears to churn, because that is the process of human problem solving. And arguably AI can just do that better than me. So I shouldn't want that. Right. But I've sort of worried about that. Now, what I'm interested in is, like, if you have taken that Reddit process that you just mentioned, discover the customer pain point, and found an AI way to remove some of the drudgery of that part of the process, speed it up, and then take the basic idea, which is know how your customers talk and then talk the same way and promise them the things that they want. Take that same idea and improve the process that you already have. You already have the process. Now you're just trying to document it and improve it with AI. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a much more defensible approach to take than the former. I mean, like, the problem with a lot of these AI tools that you're seeing at the moment, and there's only going to be, like, I mean, since the Icon launch, I think everyone's just tried to build an AI creative strategist or an AI tool because they've seen how well that went. The problem is that all of these tools are mainly built by SaaS companies or developers, and like, the execution here is not the moat. The moat is in the understanding of what we spoke about earlier. It's like how to make an actual good direct response ad. It's really hard to be a creative strategist, and like, the execution, like we've seen with websites, like, you know, Lovable came out in, what was it, 2 months ago now, and like, now anyone can build a website. Like, I may be wrong, and it may be like you said, that with the amount of volume it can do, like, it just knows what works and what doesn't, and AI can produce good quality ads. But the execution becomes commoditized very, very quickly. I mean, we're working on a couple of things with integrations with, like, you know, Reddit, YouTube Shorts, Pinterest, TikTok, but they're going to be everywhere. Like, they're not today, but like, I really don't think it's long before everyone's got a tool where you can hook into every single platform that you use. And then it's just like, the moat is how good you are actually at creative strategy, and then how good you are reverse engineering that process through the quality of your prompts. Then to take it one step further, like, then you can get into MCPs, which is where, like, instead of you connecting directly, like, to the APIs of a platform, like, the AI comes to you and meets you where you're at. So like, the AI is in your Slack channel, and the AI agent is in your creative team's brainstorm. And then instead of, like, you know, you having to run the task every time, saying like, go and scrape Reddit and and find me all the things that people are saying that we could use, or like find me all the ad comments that people are that have occurred in the last 7 days that could be turned into comment response ads or whatever it is. The AI agent will be proactive and say, hey, like I heard you guys talking about this in your creative brainstorm last week. I've actually gone ahead and brainstormed 3 scripts off the back of those ideas. What do you think? So, I mean, yeah, the problem is like it's hard like for me to say that today because none of these tools exist. I really think we're talking about a matter of like a handful of months instead of years, which most people think these tools are away. But on like as of recording today, like just a lot of the tools out there, I think are built by people who aren't in the space or aren't in the space like actively in the trenches building ads that convert. And that's why there's a bit of a disconnect between like, you know, all these tools that do very well online and they all look very flashy, but there's actually no ongoing utility to the creative strategist who needs to put out 100 ads a week or like whatever that number is for you.
Yeah, my experience with the tools is that they are often like 60 to 70% good or something like that. Like if there's a 10-step process, they do 5 of the steps awesome, but the places where they mess up on the other 5 are too big to use it. To be an all-in-one thing. And in fact, if you build in that platform, it also becomes so clunky that trying to then manually as a human step into the platform and then go fix the problems that the platform can't do all the way, that process now, by having to reintegrate the human into a new process, actually takes longer than if you'd have just done it yourself, even though it can do 5 of the things really well. That's my experience right now. So instead of doing the sort of one-size-fits-all thing, this is why I come back to the idea that like what you actually need to do is kind of what you said earlier: have a process, use AI tools where possible in your existing process to speed up your already good process. Okay, so I haven't fired a single person yet from my teams. All I'm thinking about, in fact, what I'm doing is like trying to pull them more into more of these conversations, like my creative team in the Philippines, things like that. They're really smart, really talented people. So I try to pull them in and say, okay, how do I then give you tools to take the current process you already have and make it better? If you can do that. And what I believe is that what you said is right, which is that right now a lot of people are building tools on top of the existing tools, right? And that's great and fast and whatever. And sometimes there's a place for that. But I'm kind of like, I actually think I'll probably spend too much time trying to go find which ones and where to put those. If I do that too much, it's actually probably a better use of my time to just wait the 3 months for the tools themselves. Like if you're in Canva, for Canva's AI tools to get so good, basically, because you know this is what they're all going to do, right? The Slack thing you just mentioned is for sure going to happen. At some point, Meta Ads Manager is going to have like a comment reader for you that's built into the tool where it's like, you know, hey, I don't know. So increasingly, all the tools are going to be built AI first. The actual comp in my mind to all of this is the advent of the internet. How old are you, Alex?
I'm 26 now, so I was very young.
Yeah. So I'm 41. I remember the first time I went into a computer lab in my junior high school. You know, the computer room, and it was like, here's Netscape Navigator. I built GeoCities websites and things that you probably don't even know what they are. And And it went from this thing that I had to go to a computer lab to use to where it's just everywhere all the time, all around us, and it's now a normal part of everything we do. I think that's basically happening at the same time, and it's going to happen much faster because AI can self-replicate really fast, right? Like AI can use AI to go fast. So anyway, that's kind of the way I'm thinking about it right now. Is like is like the sort of the level of investment I'm putting into AI is like keep being open to what's happening, try not to be like overwhelmed, but like don't overhaul my whole processes. Instead, do the things that I know work, because actually those things were already scaling brands plenty fast. In fact, brands can't sometimes scale a whole lot faster because it's actually too financially difficult, and for a lot of reasons. So yeah, that's basically the way I'm thinking about it. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a meme the other day that was like, you know, the Drake meme, the Hotline Bling Drake meme, where it's like, the caption was like on the bit where he's like going like that, where he's like saying no, it was like write an ad script yourself, and then like the bit under where he's like yes was like spend 30 minutes in Claude, like, you know, prompt engineering a script. And it's so true. Like we all think these tools are going to save us time, and then it's like actually, when you factor in how much, this doesn't do the whole job. This does maybe like the middle 60 or 70%. And I've still got to do the pre-work before and the after work. I actually just would have been better off just doing it myself. I do think that it's a smart position to take in that you just kind of sit back and let the technology develop for the next few months. What I will say in the meantime, you really can get the 80/20 by just building up a prompting and context library for yourself. I really think that more strategists should be doing this to increase the quality of the outputs you get from GPT. Like you said earlier, it just goes back to taking the process you've already got and turning it into AI rather than looking for an AI process and trying to shoehorn that into the stuff that you already do. So just taking the prompts that you've got and instead of having to enter them every time, I just have a prompt in library. Whenever I want to analyze customer reviews, whenever I want to analyze or I come up with ideation or do headlines, I've got a library I can just take and copy that straight into GPT. And then when the text there, I can just insert those into my agent. And I'm always iterating on those prompts every day. So it might start off with one prompt that's here are some customer reviews, pick out some static headlines. And then I get the output and I go, actually, I want to add some more context. I want to say that these static headlines must be relevant to someone who has absolutely zero context and does not care about the brand. And then it's still not giving me what I want. And then I say, I want to take one step further and I go, okay, why? So I say, here is customer reviews. Give me some static headlines. Make sure it's relevant to someone who does not know or care. Here's an example of a good headline for my brand, and here's why. Here's an example of a bad headline, and here's why. And I just keep iterating on that prompt and iterating on that prompt and adding that to my prompt library until I've got some really solid prompts that near enough, every time I put customer reviews in, they give me good ad headline outputs. And just doing that for prompting and doing that for context as well. What's crazy is you can literally just go and take resources off the internet, put it into your context library, and then just dump your context library into every time that you write a prompt. So I do this all the time inside of Poppy, which is one of my favorite tools to use. I've taken my YouTube videos, I'll probably do it for this one, to be fair. I take an hour-long video that I did with podcast I did with Morella or Barry in the space. I put it into Poppy and say, hey, turn this into a document on how to write static ads. And now I just use that as context when I'm making static ads in the future. I can just say, hey, here's the prompt, go for these customer reviews, pick out some headlines that are good for someone who has zero context. Here's a good example, here's a bad example, here's why. And by the way, here's a 5-page document on how to make great static ads. And there's no way you do that and keep iterating on it and not improve the quality of your outputs over time. So yeah, you can use a lot of these tools, and I know it's overwhelming because even me, who's someone who I would agree that I'm very aggressively into AI, I still feel overwhelmed. I go into Twitter every day and it's damn man, there's a new feature, there's a new update, or there's a new launch. I just feel since the turn of the year, it's been 24/7. It's tough, but it's just working out what are the 80/20 key tools that you want to be using in your workflow, and then just building out your own prompting and context libraries on top of that.
If you are scaling up your creative output, you should be doing it with help from my design and video editing team in the Philippines. It is the same team that I use, that I'm scaling my clients' brands with. They're called Behind the Scenes Studio. They're an offshoot, extension, sister company, whatever you want to call it, of More Staffing, who you've heard me talk about for a very long time. Philippines-based team that is laser focused on graphic design and video editing for meta ads. And the beauty of that is if you like the way that I am thinking about this, if you like the way that Alex is thinking about this, they're going to be a great extension of your team because they are thinking the same way. In fact, Behind the Scenes built their creative process off the back of my creative process. When we started working together on some things, they realized there's an opportunity to take the kinds of stuff we're talking about all the time and extend it out to a bunch more clients. And so if you are trying to focus on building a high volume of good quality meta ads creative at a low cost, they are the perfect solution to that because they're based in the Philippines. So there's an opportunity for you to pay a good rate in the Philippines to get great great talent, but at the same time pay less than you'd pay equivalent talent in the US. Behind the scenes is attracting really good quality design and edit talent. One of my designers was working at like a major serious magazine in the Philippines before coming over and working with me because the opportunity was so good. Like, these people know what they're doing. They're really good. If you think Philippines equals cheap equals bad, you have it wrong. You are thinking the wrong way about this. Behind the scenes is extremely high quality in what they do, built for meta ads first. You're going to love working with them. So go to btsstudio.co, btsstudio.co. The link is in the show notes for that. Get a call started, see if it's the right solution for you. btsstudio.co. I highly recommend them. I'm glad to hear that you feel overwhelmed too. Maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I should. That should make me more overwhelmed if you're overwhelmed. But yeah, it's good to know. What I've actually come to with that is that they're actually, part of the reason that I feel like I have to be so AI forward is that I feel like I'm going to lose out on the opportunity to make a bunch of money. Like my clients are all going to fire me if I don't aggressively adopt things fast enough, because they're all going to go to, you or something, whatever. And not that you even are really competitive to me. I'm not, whatever. It's just an irrational fear I have, and the truth is, what I think is that actually I can make my clients a lot of money right now by doing a really good job of the things that we do. And like I said, using AI to support them. So I don't feel the need at this stage for an early adopter mentality to overhaul everything that I'm doing. And if I sort of am able to identify that fear a little bit, then I'm able to kind of calm down a little bit and then try to actually just figure out, okay, how do I just take the things I'm doing now and make the process better? Sort of be slightly less optimistic about what it can do for me than what I'm doing now. So yeah, really fast to go back to what you're saying. When you say you've got that context library and those prompts, and I think that's really good input. I'm just starting to get better at doing the thing you also just said, which is like take videos of mine and turn it into, processes and documentation, like all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm still learning to have that instinct where like everything I use AI for. But what tools do you use actually for the prompt creation for, like, you mentioned like read these reviews, here's the example ad, here's who you're talking to, you give it sort of all that information. Is that a Claude project? Like, is that a custom GPT? Yeah. What are you doing for that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I will say, like, I love your approach of just like kind of recognizing that like it's overwhelming, but we don't need to overhaul our processes. Just leave all the like frantic worrying to people like me. We can just be up all night trying to worry like if we're going to get replaced by AI, and like you just sit tight. But I think it's the right way to do it. Like you shouldn't be overhauling your processes, because you can overhaul your processes and then in 2 months' time you have to do it again, because like we're so early to this stuff. It's like you don't know, and like AI is going to come and significantly change the way we work, but like marketing principles are always going to stay the same. So if I'm going to bet on one to be the center of my strategy right now, I know what one I'm taking. As it pertains to tools, like I said, I try my best to try as many as I can, and honestly, like most of them are very average and look cooler than they are actually practical. In terms of the ones that I actually use day to day, so. Actually, we'll start off. We spoke about Reddit a while ago. I think GigaBrain is a insanely useful tool. It basically acts as ChatGPT, but instead of the knowledge base being what GPT has, it's Reddit. So like you can find real words and phrases that your customers are using. You can just type into the chat, like, I have an anti-dandruff shampoo brand. What specific pain points and like language do people have about dandruff when they have that pain point? And it will go and scrape Reddit. It will link the Reddit threads, and also does it for YouTube comments as well. That's really good.
GigaBrain, you said? GigaBrain,
yes. It's $10 a month as well. Like, honestly, it's nice. Killer. Yeah. That's good. Something slightly more expensive, Deep Research, is incredibly powerful. What everyone was saying at the start of the year, that was like, oh, by the end of the year, 50% of a strategist's work on research will be done by AI. I genuinely think Deep Research can do 50% of your research work today. Like, it's scary the amount of detail that it will go into and produce reports or insights that would have taken hours to do manually, or even in a normal ChatGPT subscription in about 20 minutes. So again, I'm not doing anything that I wouldn't do manually or I wouldn't do with the ChatGPT Pro plan. I'm just asking it to go through articles, go through Reddit, go through YouTube comments, like all the things that I would do, and just find the keywords and phrases. Like, tell me what I need to know, give me ideas that I can use in my creative strategy. The deep research is great. Claude projects, again, going back to what we were saying earlier of context libraries. You can either use memory inside of GPT, or you can use Claude projects. So for each of our clients, we have projects set up, so I don't have to dump client context in every single time. But like, there's context on like your brand, and there's also context on like industry expertise. So like, going back to what we were saying, like it is an instinct. Like, go in to find like this podcast, downloading it, or you don't even download it. You can just put the YouTube video inside of Poppy and it will transcribe it and use it straight away. But just collecting a bunch of resources that are really great resources, and like there's a temptation to want to put everything into just a GPT or into a Poppy board and say, go and work on this. I prefer to pick like a small group of people that I really believe in their philosophies and like methodologies, and just take long form content from them and dump it in. Or sometimes I'll do my own stuff because I believe in the stuff that I say, and just say like, here's a YouTube video. Like I did one with Dara Denny recently. Like, I took one of her recent YouTube videos I thought was a really good video. I put it in and I said, turn it into a document on how to test ads. And then then I can use that as context in the prompts or in the agents that we set up. It's all just about like who can build who's got the best documentation, because like, as we said, GPT and Claude are inherently not good creative strategists. Like, you need to teach them what is good and what is not good. Like, they're great reasoning models, but they're not great at making performance direct response ads. So we need to teach them what is good and what is not, and that just comes down to the quality of the context you give it, both on the basis of like, here's my brand and here's what you need to know about my products, and here's what actually a good output looks like. Here's how to make a static ad. Here's how to do good research, or here's like what you should be looking for. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of deep research, and then Poppy for that reason. Like, it's so useful because of course you can't drag in URLs or like many different inputs into Claude natively. But what Poppy is like an AI wrapper, where you can choose the model you want. You can choose it can be Claude 3.7 or 4.0 or 01, like whatever LLM that you want to work with, and then you can really easily insert different inputs. So you can insert like YouTube videos, you can insert TikTok videos, you can insert images, you can insert your customer reviews if you want to, websites, review pages. You can even voice message it, or like just record a voice note on like, hey, here is like some context about my brand. Give it examples, good and bad examples, and then just chat with Claude as if you were chatting inside of Claude, except Claude has all of this context. It's like Claude projects, but you've got all this additional like context from different parts of the internet that are very hard to get into Claude natively. You don't have to Control A and Control C and then Control V into Claude, which we've all done many times. So I think Poppy really is great, not just for like its ability to make ads and like headlines or scripts, because we write all of our scripts inside of there, but also just to build context libraries. If I see a really good piece of content, whether it's a newsletter, whether it's a tweet, whether it's a YouTube video, like I save it to my context library, I turn it into some kind of document inside of Poppy, and like I'm just building my context library and building like the almost like manual on how to make a great static, or how to do great research, or like whatever the task is inside of creative strategy, so that we can feed ChatGPT, we can feed Claude, we can feed our agents at some point when we need that context.
The thing that's really interesting to me about all of this is that what it reflects is that the real challenge of this kind of work, and of most kinds of work, is actually the replication of process. So like you, Alex, already have a whole bunch of ideas in your head about what works and what doesn't. But of course, they float in and out of your head. At times you forget that you believe concept A over here about something about creative strategy, and over here you have concept B about your research method. And no matter how much you believe those things, you're just in your process somewhere of doing research for an ad. And some of those things are just more present to your mind at times than others. And you believed this thing that was really important 6 months ago that you sort of forgot about for no reason. You didn't stop believing it. You just thought of other things. It's just really hard to maintain this, these things that you believe. Right. And so it's interesting how much of what you're expressing here is about the ability to take those beliefs and essentially not lose them, actually to tap into those beliefs in your actual creation process. That strikes me as like a great use of what AI is, because AI doesn't forget things, like by giving it the documentation, it's going to have that in the context, library in a way that you and I don't. And then of course, that's before you even talk about the step of replicating that across other people in an organization, right? Which is its own challenge. And so, the tools you're talking about there, I think really help with that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like I can't build this context library overnight, because as you say, like things slip out your mind. You might think something more strongly today than you did 3 months ago. So it's over time. Like I started out with what I thought I knew. And then I add tweets that I see as they come in by the day. I add YouTube videos, I add newsletters, and over time it just compounds and compounds. One thing that like what I would do if I didn't have any content out there and like I had to start from scratch, and let's say I didn't have any SOPs, I just knew what my process is, and I didn't have anything documented, is I would record a podcast with myself. I would tell ChatGPT, this is what I'm trying to do. Like I'm trying to build out a context library and I have nothing right now.
I've done this.
That's genius.
I use this tool, Riverside, that we're recording in. This is actually one of my favorite uses of AI so far. I actually used it for some X posts. I'm a pretty verbal processor. You may have noticed. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm a very pretty verbal processor. So what I did is I realized, wait a minute, why don't I give Claude some of my best performing tweets so that it has some sense of like what my voice is and all that stuff. Tell it who I'm talking to. Of course, I did the thing that I always try and do with AI that I'm still getting the habit of, which I asked Claude how to give Claude the right instructions, right? So, so Claude said, okay, here's what I need from you to accomplish the thing that you're trying to accomplish. I told it that. And then I said, okay, I'm going to give you a transcript of me talking. I want you to turn that into a tweet, basically. And it got it about 80% there, and it allowed me to do. Oh no, it was a newsletter. Excuse me, it's not just a tweet. It was a newsletter. So it was longer. It was a longer form piece of content, and I said, like, this is the thing I'm trying to say, and I wanted to talk through some ideas and connect some ideas out loud. So I talked, I recorded it, I had to spit it out, I gave it my newsletters, and then now I'm and then I edited and pasted it, and it's like, man, that saved me so much time and helped me. It helped me create better content because it sort of blended together the work of writing and talking. So as I talked, I could get the ideas out, and then in the editing process, I wrote. And writing is an act of thinking as well. So I don't want to completely eliminate my writing process. So I want that to be in there. So as I was working through, I was reading, writing, just cleaning things up. And in the end, I don't know that it saved me a huge amount of time, but I think it made the content way better. I think it definitely saved me some time and allowed me to like get through the mental barrier of sitting down with a blank page and trying to start writing and all that kind of stuff. So for the same thing for SOPs, for sure. I did this exact same thing with my team. I was looking at like, okay, we're trying to do something with the way we, launch ads into an ad account and whatever. And I thought, I'm just going to talk, and then I'm going to have ChatGPT turn that talking into instructions, and it did it. In fact, it outputted it to me in a Notion format, right? So I could actually give me a Notion file that I could put directly into Notion. Again, it was 80%, 90% of the way there. Made a couple little edits, and it was like a great way to do it, because I hate the work of doing the detail process, typing out each stage of things. It feels like drudgery to me, So the idea that ChatGPT functions as my executive assistant in that case, who's like doing that work for me, was like incredibly helpful.
Yeah, spot on. Have you used Poppy before?
No, I didn't know about it. I think I've seen you tweet about it, but I don't know anything about it.
Honestly, offline we can talk about this, but like for content, this is not about ads, but just for content creation, like being able to do what you're doing inside of Claude projects, and just I have a board set up that's like, it's just my template for writing newsletters. This may be off topic, so
no, go. It's great.
A template for writing newsletters. So it has context. Like it's just context, education, examples. I've given it 5 YouTube videos on how to write good email newsletters that are from other people. I have given it 10 examples of my newsletters. And then I have given it a voice note of me just brain dumping what I want the newsletter to be about. And and then I just pull it into the Poppy, the Claude chat through Poppy. And I say, take the education on how to write good newsletters, take the tone of how I write newsletters, and write a newsletter about this 3-minute voice note. And it's scary how like good it gets it to a point. Like obviously it's not going to one shot it, but like gets me to a point from 2 hours to write a newsletter to 20 minutes to write a newsletter. Yeah. And that's like every time I want to write something new, I just voice note it, or I just, you can have the system set up, and that great for content creation, also great for
I'm quite certain that I haven't tapped this out. I'll tell you what I'm trying to do next. You tell me if Poppy is the right tool. And I think this is off the topic of ad creative, but there's plenty of people who are creators here. I think either way, it's a good way to think about this problem. I realized recently when I release a podcast episode like this one, right? I promote it in multiple places, and then I have little bits of copy I need to put with it. So for example, I need to have a title for this for YouTube. I need some thumbnail copy for that, probably for 3 different thumbnails, because you can split test your thumbnails now on YouTube. Okay. I want tweets and LinkedIn posts promoting this episode. I know which tweets of mine have done the best in the past, right? So I can feed that context. I want blurbs to put in the bottom of my newsletter as well. So this is something I put in the bottom of my newsletters, recent podcast episodes, and blurbs for that. Okay. So there's at least 5 different unique pieces of written content that I want connected to this. What I want to be able to do, and what I'm working on building out now, is to be able to download the transcript. Now I don't even have to do that with Poppy. It sounds like I literally just give it the video, and turn that transcript or that video into at least version 1 of all of those pieces, so that I don't just have to do that anymore, and I can have somebody else actually build it all for me. Does that sound right?
Dude, I'm saying, I mean, people can listen to this and think that I'm like on commission for Poppy or something. I'm not sponsored by them. It's just a killer tool. And like, that is the perfect use case. It was actually built for content creators, not advertisers. It was built for content creators to like help them repurpose content across different platforms. So like my YouTube titles come from there. Ideas for thumbnails come from there. I have a board inside of Poppy that basically takes my tweets, and like I've given it a load of examples of, how to speak in like Twitter language, is a lot more informal and a little, less baity. And turn it into like LinkedIn language, is a little bit more formal. You need to put a little bit of more, I mean, at least I put more thought into the hook, and like explain things a little bit more detailed and write more formally. And it can take tweets and turn them into LinkedIn posts because I've just given it a load of examples of tweets, LinkedIn posts, and how I've repurposed them manually. Again, just giving it good examples and why, bad examples and why. And like you can set up a board like that for each like repurpose piece of content you want, whether it's Twitter to LinkedIn, or like YouTube to newsletter, or YouTube to whatever it is, TikTok script. It's really good for adding context. I mean, it's stuff that you can do in Claude. It just makes it a lot easier when you can turn it into a board that's visual, and is like set it up once, and now every time I want to do a newsletter, I can just come in and voice note, and my newsletter's pretty much there.
I mean, it's a good example of the whole thing, because what it's actually going to do is make all of the content better too, right? So like in the sense of like, by giving it better context, better examples, it's going to take your idea. Now you have to have the idea, right? So of course people are going to go out there and they're just going to AI slop repetition of ideas that other people have, right? They're going to take your content and turn it into their own ideas. They're going to take my content and do that. They're going to do that with all kinds of people, and they're going to build big followings replicating other people's ideas. Fine. So it goes. But I think, probably as that happens, hopefully more original thinkers will rise up to the top. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it will just be whoever is best at using the tools to do that. And that's just the way the world goes. Fine enough. Good for them if they make a lot of money doing that. In any case, theoretically, you need to have somewhere underneath that a good idea. And then you can take that idea and syndicate it and express it more clearly, better, in the language of the platform where it makes sense, and more effectively across all those things. Like that feels like a real win. And again, it takes that same thing, which is like, how do you just use these tools as well as possible? It's very easy to see how that gets made into a creative process as well for your ad creative, et cetera, which is like, at the end of the day, you still want a real person doing something really authentic and behaving in a real way and getting a real reaction to communicate that message most effectively on that channel. But you might be able to get a really, really long ways by helping with research and prompting and script writing and things like that in the process, right? So it's the same idea as creating a piece of content for you and your newsletter and me and whatever else, as opposed as it is for an ad creator. It's just about knowing who the audience is, knowing what the channel, what kind of content performs best on the channel, and then accelerating all of that output based on all of those inputs.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to bring it back to ad creation, what we were saying earlier, like you can literally, if you don't have any documentation or you don't have any context and you don't have like a load of tweets or LinkedIn posts or whatever it is, or SOPs for a model to reference, like we were saying earlier, like you can just ask ChatGPT, say, I am struggling. I need some context for my LLMs, but I don't have any process documented. I just know it in my head. Give me a list of questions to interview myself so that I can build a context library. Just go and record that podcast, make it an unlisted video on YouTube. And then you can you can make a document on research on that. You make a document on ideation. You can make a document on editing and just use them as context for the prompts that you build for clients or like for strategy. Because then you have the context of the brand and then also the context of how to do research or how to write scripts or whatever that be from your own process, as well as just pulling in context from other people. Like, go and pull in podcasts like this, go and pull in a long form newsletter. There's nothing wrong with taking other people's
no, that's the whole point of that information.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like
the whole point is so people use
content
it
out there so people are able to make better ads or whatever the goal be. So yeah, I mean, there really is no excuse. Like I do think there's going to be value. Well, there already is value in a handful of the tools. I think the tools are going to get a lot better over the next 3 to 6 months. In the meantime, I really think there's a good 80-20 to be found in building a solid prompting and context library.
Alex, I've followed your content for a while and have seen what you've been saying for a while, and have noticed how thoughtful and interesting and well-stated your content is for a long time. And then in the lead up to this, thanks to a couple of things, I started paying closer attention to it than I had before, right? It was coming across my feed. I'd seen you in these places, but all that, it's great. Your content is great. I don't know how much of it is being generated with the help of AI these days or not, but it's great. And I really would recommend to anybody watching or listening, go sign up for Alex's newsletter, which is going to pull in a lot of this kind of information, make it really tactical for you, really usable for you. Go follow Alex on X. Are you on LinkedIn as well? Are you active there?
I am on LinkedIn. I'm more active on X, and I do want to make the point that I write every tweet out on X by hand. There is, well, not by hand. I type it out. So if you want to get it straight from the source, that's where to follow me. There is no AI involved there. Not yet.
Great. The links to do all that are in the show notes for this episode, and I really want to encourage you to do that. I've found you to be one of the most helpful voices on this question. Like I said, this sort of mix of the super optimistic, super AI forward person, not scared, really leveraging it, and at the same time, I think not overselling it. I think it's been a really hard balance to strike, and in my view, you've been one of the best at doing it. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to share that with others. And again, for anybody watching or listening to this, still there, go follow Alex's content. It's really, really good stuff.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Great to talk to you. Hopefully we'll do it again soon. I mean, that was a great conversation, wasn't it? Alex is so good. You've got to follow up with him. Go to his X profile. The link's in the show notes. Sign up for everything he does. Follow him on X. Like, go get his newsletter. Just an insanely helpful guy, insanely helpful voice in this conversation. I've just been really, really, really helped by him. So big thanks to Alex for that. Subscribe to this show wherever you're watching or listening. If you like this episode, you're going to like a lot of the episodes that I do. It hits a lot of the big stuff. I've got Brett Curry coming soon to talk about YouTube ads a little bit more. That's a really interesting space right now. Brett spent a lot of money on YouTube. He's going to be really useful to you. I've got Shireen Albert coming soon, Nate Lagos coming soon, all kinds of great stuff in my Profit Monsters series. You're just not going to want to miss it. If you're trying to build profitable e-commerce businesses with ads, man, you're going to like a lot of this content. Subscribe right now. Don't forget to follow up with my sponsors. That's Behind the Scenes Studio, to be an extension of your team for graphic design and video editing for your ad creative. No matter if you're developing with AI or not, they're going to help you push forward with AI forward ways. btsstudio.co to get them going, and reach out. Make a call. Just see if they're right for you. Just schedule a call with them. And INTELLIGEMS, which is the world-leading CRO software because it's actually focused on profit. Go to intelligems.io and use the code FARIS20, FARIS20, to get 20% off your first 3 months today with INTELLIGEMS. Incredible tool that I love, use all the time with my clients. So you can see everything I'm doing at ajfgrowth.com. including if you want to try and work with me, you can reach out there. I think right now I don't have any space, but you should still reach out to me anyway. Get on my wait list and see if maybe there's some conversation or if I can send you to the right person. Email me at podcast@ajfgrowth.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, thoughts, something you want me to hit on a future episode, please email me, podcast@ajfgrowth.com. You can also follow me on X @AndrewJFerris. I'd love to hear from you. Any public conversation around anything I say is always something that is great, including if you're disagreeing with me. That's fine. I can handle it. Argue with me. Tell me why I'm wrong. Thanks so much again for watching, for listening. I'll see you next time.